I used 2 tension rods for this brilliant storage solution. I placed them between my washing machine and wall, which is an awkward, unused space. I made sure they were both level, and then I got a piece of wood to fit on top. I trimmed another scrap piece of wood for the front, and I used a brad nailer to secure them together. I grabbed shelf liner from the dollar store and stuck it to the wood to make it look like one large thick board. I trimmed the edges and placed it on top of the tension rods, and now I have a solution for more storage in my laundry room that actually looks good. I hope this inspires you to make use of those awkward spaces and make these easy tension rod shelves.
I've got a laundry problem, too much to do and nowhere to store it. So I'm going to head down to my hardware store and I'm going to grab some good lumber. A 1x3 and 1x2s. Make sure you get them pretty straight. On 2 of these 8-foot boards, we're going to mark them right in half, a little bit above the 4-foot mark. Then I'm going to cut them. Now, we're going to set 2 of these legs aside because we're going to work on one side at a time. Take these 2 legs, separate them, and then we're going to start building a box. As you can see, I'm going to use glue. Glue is so strong compared to screws or nails. So what you do is you take good wood glue, you separate it out, put the board on top, and I'm just going to use little brad nails to hold it in place. This is going to allow the glue to dry, and it's going to be super strong. We're going to box this out, and then once we get the 2 sides built, we're going to measure the basket, and it comes out to about 24 inches. As you can see, that's how we have to separate it. Build the top and the bottom, again using the 1x3s. Just use these, and this could be a one-person job if you use a clamp to hold it in place on one side. Now, as you can see, the box is starting to form. If it's a little bit off, don't worry. We'll take care of that when it comes to sanding. We'll go on the other side, again using glue and a little bit of brad nails. Now it's time to build the top. Again, using 1x3s on the top, I'm going to do 5 of these. Again, as you can see, I got glue. Now it's time to build the racks and the sliders that the baskets will go on. I'm going to put some glue down again along the sides as I measure it out for 3 baskets, all equal sizes up and down. This one doesn't use a 1x3, uses a 1x2. We'll put this in place again with glue and using the brad nails to hold it in place. See that little bevel I put on the side? That's so it doesn't catch the basket. Here's the top. You can see the 5 slots that I put in. Now this is the facial board that I'm going to put in. It fits really nice, but we want to hold it in place again. This is where we can put little letterings or signs on. Using the brad nail, hold it in place. Once we do that, it's time to sand. Now, the reason you want to sand is it takes stain and everything better. But I've got a secret. We're not going to use stain on this. I'm going to use something different, but don't be intimidated. We're going to use a torch. That's right. We're going to burn this wood and give it a special look. As you can see here, I'm showing you that it can go too fast and it won't do the job. What you got to do when you're using a torch, don't be nervous, go a little bit slower. See how when we do that, it brings the grain out? It doesn't burn all the wood. It just takes that wood grain and really sets it apart, giving it a very dark look. Now, it looks like it could possibly be burning the wood. That's only temporary. It just gives it a nice shine, and then you can finish it off with some poly. Now, here is the final project. I used my Cricut machine, put a laundry symbol on it, and decorated it up, and it turned out amazing. 3 baskets tall and a little shelf on top to hold things. There's that bevel right there so the baskets don't get caught when I'm putting them on. And look at that. You can barely see any of the nails because we use glue to hold it together. With all the laundry in, it's still super strong. And it slides in and out with ease. It's great for the family and they absolutely loved it. Laundry time now doesn't have to be a chore. I hope this inspired you to build your own DIY laundry basket rack.
I'm not a fan of doing laundry, and when it comes to folding clean clothing, there's not enough room in my laundry room. But now I found a plan to make a Murphy table, and I knew that's what I needed. I began by cutting 1 by 12 inch pine to make the storage cabinet. I made the outside box first. I used a Craig jig to make pocket holes to join my pieces together. This, along with wood glue, would keep everything in place. I measured for my shelves, marking and cutting them to fit, and screwed them in place. Now that the cabinet was made, it was time to make the table. I used 1/2 inch MDF, which I measured and cut to size. I attached a piece of 1x2 to the bottom of the MDF with glue and brads. I also made the legs for the table out of 1x2s. I painted the entire cabinet gray using paint from another project. For the back of the table, I used chalkboard paint and applied 2 coats. When it was dry, I flipped the table over and applied wallpaper to the other side. This would be my tabletop. To attach the table to the cabinet, I used a piano hinge. I screwed it to the wallpaper side of the tabletop and the bottom front of the cabinet. I used another hinge and attached it to the top of the blackboard side and to the top of the legs. For the back of the cabinet, I attached a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. The cabinet was very heavy, so I used a French cleat as my hanger. There are 2 pieces, and one screws into the back of the cabinet and then one screwed into the wall. Where I wanted to place the cabinet, there were no studs available, so I drilled holes and put in plastic anchors. The cleat is really easy to install, and the cabinet hung right up. To keep the table attached to the cabinet, I fastened a heavy-duty magnet to the front. Now I have a place to fold my clothing, extra storage, and a chalkboard to write notes. It's a win-win. I hope this inspires you to build something that's unusually useful.
Grab some pool noodles from the Dollar Tree. Find a scrap piece of plywood and paint the back and front completely with a white primer. Paint on black paint after the primer dries. Reach for a pool noodle and cut multiple foam noodles the same length. Lay the cut foam noodles side by side and adhere them together. Then add glue to the bottom of all the noodles and adhere vertically to the plywood board. Paint all of the noodles completely using black paint.
Gonna go right down the center and just cut them in half so that I have that flat edge to go flush against the board.
Space the noodles out with a little bit of spacing in between, and then attach them also with the staple gun for some added stability. I worked in sections of about 4 at a time, sprayed a little bit of spray adhesive on, and then just kind of used my hands to firmly work the leather into the channels. I trimmed the edge at the corner and then just tucked it over and secured it tightly with a little bit of spray adhesive and then also more of the staples. Once that corner was secure, I just worked my way down.
Today's project starts with a pool noodle. We're going to take a piece of duct tape and use that to hold it in place. Once we got our 3 rings together, we're going to stack them up. Once I get that, I'm going to cut some more pool noodles and they're going to stack inside. We need them to be level with the top. Start on the outside and work your way to the end. Now you're going to start on one end and go ahead and slice your tape and put it on the bottom. Go across the 3 pool noodles, across the top, down the bottom. We're actually going to need to cover the whole thing in duct tape because we're going to need to apply some hot glue to it. And then right in the middle, I'm going to put a first dab of hot glue. I'm going to take this rope right here, this cotton rope, and go ahead and put it on there.
The first thing I'm doing is taping these pool noodles together in 4 different areas to create stability. I'm establishing my base layer of florals by spreading the stems sporadically throughout the noodles. Now it is time to add the main focal piece, but before I do that, I need to add 2 cable tie mounts to the top and the bottom of the sign so I can attach my pipe cleaners and floral stake. Here it's as easy as taking the sign and directly placing it into the pool noodles, securing it with some hot glue. On the back side, I'm placing another one to give it that full watermelon shape and allow your design to be double-sided. Now I'm going to be adding those larger florals from the previous bouquet evenly throughout the design. On each side of the sign, I'm placing 2 medium bows.
Ran down to the dollar store and picked up some pool noodles. I cut them in half lengthwise. I made sure to cut the pool noodles to the length of the bench seat, and I secured it in place using a staple gun. At this point, I also added some fabric. I chose outdoor fabric because I knew that my bench was going outdoors. I secured this in place as closely as I could to the bottom of the pool noodle, put the fabric over that piece, and secured that piece again. And I continued this pattern of noodle fabric so that I could create tufted channels, and the fabric would look like it goes all the way down in between the different pool noodle pieces. When I got to the end of the bench, I again took that last piece of pool noodle, wrapped it around the back edge of the wood, and secured it in place. Now I needed to add the legs. I had ordered these legs off of Amazon. All I had to do was secure them in place using the screws that came in the box.
The next time you're at Dollar Tree, grab yourself some of their succulent picks. Also going to want to grab some of their foam pool noodles. I decided I wanted to paint my frame. Flip the frame over. I'm going to use the pool noodle as a measuring guide, and then I'm going to cut it exactly so it fits in the little ledge of the frame. And then I'm going to cut the pool noodle directly in half. I'm going to take some E6000 and I'm going to glue just the edges of the frame and the edges of the pool noodle, and I'm going to place the pool noodle into the frame, but making sure that the curved side is going to be facing out. Then once it's fully set, I'm going to come in here and create my own little backings. And then just to make the back a little prettier, I have this green fabric that I'm just going to lay over top, and then I'm going to take a stapler and I'm going to staple it around. I'm going to start with some moss. So I have some reindeer moss here. I'm going to come in with the succulent picks that I picked up from the dollar store, add a bit of hot glue to the edge, and then I'm going to work them in.
Head over to your local Walmart and grab a few sprigs of greenery. I placed the pool noodle next to the top of the planter and marked a line. Then I cut the pool noodle with a knife to the mark. After that, I placed the pool noodle pieces along with some empty water bottles inside the planter to keep everything in the center and weighted down. Then I placed the sprigs of faux greenery inside the holes of the pool noodles and fluffed it all out.
Today we're working with pool noodles. First, you want to cut the pool noodle in half to slit them right down the center. And then we're going to fold our noodle open. So I'm going to cut this all the way through. And then I'm going to turn these upside down. So I'm going to put my glue. This is cool melt, so it's not super, super hot. And then you're going to place that. Okay, so now I'm attaching the second piece and we will insert our third piece. Okay, our glue is dry. So now I'm going to trim off the ends. We are now going to put a tray on here and we're going to decorate it. Cut 2-inch sections of our pool noodle. We're going to have 1 in the center and 6 around the outside. And we're going to place it on the top. You want to cut all the way around. Cut that small piece out of my noodle. And then your candle will fit in there just like this. Now I'm going to connect them. I'm using a hot glue gun, but it is on a low temperature. I have a big rubber band in my hand and I'm going to put that around here and let this dry.
So here's the big secret. Every pool noodle has a hole in it. So I'm gonna stick the pool noodle onto the faucet like this. Next, I take the other end of the pool noodle and I hold it down so that it aims in the center of the bucket. I turn the water on slowly and I just wait to fill the bucket to the level I want. Now, how easy is this? Now I'm ready to get mopping. Now, a lot of people have trouble with drafts coming in under doors. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take a pool noodle and I'm gonna measure my door. What I picked up was a pillowcase from the dollar store. I'm gonna take this pool noodle, stick it inside. I'm gonna lay it back down on the table so it's nice and flat. I'm gonna go ahead and just wind it. So I'm gonna put a little dab of hot glue here, and then I'm just gonna run this along the edge. So this end is open because this is the top of the pillowcase. So all I'm gonna do is stick the pillowcase into the hole. Velcro adhesive. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel off the adhesive and I'm gonna place it. Now I have peeled the backing off and I'm going to stick it to the door. Here it is on the door, and I can still open and close the door with ease. So what I've got here is a pool noodle from an old project that's already cut. And then what I need to do from here is just take a pen or a pencil or marker and just kind of mark where this spot is. I'm just gonna go ahead and make a slit into about half of the pool noodle. Next, I'm gonna flip the noodle over, and I've got these great little picture holder strips, and you're gonna wanna put it on the back side of where each of these are. So I start by peeling the backing off. And now I stick and press it on the wall, and I need to wait 30 seconds at minimum. I just open the pool noodle like so, and I stick my broom handle inside. Here they are all hung up, and I'm just absolutely thrilled with how easy this was and how it turned out.
For this weekend project, I head down to my hardware store and I need two types of rope, one smaller and one bigger than the other. What I need to do is take a 2x3 and I'm going to cut a 24-inch piece and a 36-inch piece, two of those. And what I'm going to do is build a box with it. I'm going to take the ends, put them together and use a clamp. This is going to hold it in place while I pre-drill. And what I'm going to do is put in 3-inch screws to hold these pieces together. Once I get that done, I'm going to mark 2 inches from each side on the long end. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch paddle bit and I'm going to drill some holes through it. And I'll come back to that that later. Once I get that all sanded, it's time for staining. I'm going to go every 4 inches around all the sides. I'm going to keep them spaced just right, and once I get them all drilled and cleaned up, I'm going to take that smaller twine that I got and I'm going to start weaving it in back and forth. It's going to be like lacing a shoe. Now, when I get the sides done and I'm going from the top to the bottom, I'm going to go up and over each of the lines that I have. I'm just going to alternate. When I come back the other way, I'm going to go the reverse way. Get those tied off with a knot, and then I'm going to take my bigger rope that I picked up earlier through those 1/2-inch holes on the 4 corners. I'm going to tie a knot, get it nice and tight. Then I can pull it down and make sure it's going to fit. Now I'm going to tie the 2 top parts in a knot, and I want to hang this at an angle. And then I'm going to hang it from the tree on the branch.
I headed to my local store and picked up a bunch of these cinder blocks along with some 12-inch wide pine boards. I strategically arranged the cinder blocks in a T shape, placing them in 2 levels on either end, and adding extra blocks in the center to accommodate the wider space. Next, I cut the pine boards to match the seating length and added some patterns. I then placed the boards upside down and connected the 2 boards using these mending braces. Then, to protect the wood, I sprayed it with a waterproof coating. Lastly, I placed the wood top on the arranged cinder blocks and added a couple of outdoor pillows.
Ran down to the dollar store and picked up some pool noodles. I cut them in half lengthwise. I made sure to cut the pool noodles to the length of the bench seat, and I secured it in place using a staple gun. At this point, I also added some fabric. I chose outdoor fabric because I knew that my bench was going outdoors. I secured this in place as closely as I could to the bottom of the pool noodle, put the fabric over that piece, and secured that piece again. And I continued this pattern of noodle fabric so that I could create tufted channels, and the fabric would look like it goes all the way down in between the different pool noodle pieces. When I got to the end of the bench, I again took that last piece of pool noodle, wrapped it around the back edge of the wood, and secured it in place. Now I needed to add the legs. I had ordered these legs off of Amazon. All I had to do was secure them in place using the screws that came in the box.
The first part is making sure that the bottom is flat and level. When you're stacking the cinder blocks on top of each other, always make sure you use an all-purpose construction adhesive. It's going to hold the blocks together so there's no slippage or having them fall apart. On a project like this, you're always going to want to make sure you're wearing gloves. You're going to lay and stack 4 of these cinder blocks together. You're going to do this for both sides. Always want to make sure I take my level and just make sure it looks good. Then we're going to take 2 more, turn them the flat way. Use the construction adhesive, lay it down, and put the bricks on. These are going to lay sideways, facing each other. The next thing we're going to do, on the back half of the last cinder block, we're going to put some construction adhesive and lay this cinder block facing up. Now that we've got our cinder blocks in place, you're going to use a total of 7 on each side. The next step is putting the wood in.
Grab an old door from your local thrift store. Place it on 2 sawhorses. Begin by removing any hinges and sanding it smooth. Once it's sanded, blow away the dust and add some primer. After it's been coated in primer, add the paint color of your choosing. We decided to go with the fresh white, but you can do any color. Paint the sawhorses as well. After it's dry, carefully get rid of any glass using a hammer, pliers, and protective gear. Next, secure the door to the sawhorses and seal the paint. The mini window we removed allowed us to perfectly place our umbrella inside.
I scoured Amazon for the perfect shower curtain. I want to make sure I leave enough hanging over. I'm going to give the table a quick coat of paint and sew them all the way around. Thread a piece of twine through the pocket I created. It's time to put the new cover on the table. Give your outdoor table a makeover. I've gone ahead and flipped the table over, and I want to attach the fabric to the underside of the table. I'm going to add some clear glue to them, and this is going to help the paint not only adhere, but it's going to give it a transparent quality. Once the first coat of paint is dry, I can go over the outlines again just to make them a little darker. I'm going to use 2 of the lighter colors of the yellow and alternate them around the table. I'm going to use a water-based clear coat and apply probably 3 coats to this.
To start, I'm going to need a wood crate, and I'm going to give this a good coat of paint here. I am using a top of a desk that I am no longer using anymore. And I'm going to take my painted crate and place it bottom side down. Then I'm just going to drill some holes and add some screws. Make sure to use screws that aren't going to go all the way through the table, but are long enough to really keep it secure. Then we just flip it over and we have this low table that's going to offer some great floor seating. To make it even more cozy, I'm adding some cushions to the ground.
I measured and marked the table in half, 8 even spaces. I piped the mastic into each bottle top and then applied them to the tabletop. I added the remaining tops. I mixed 2 cups of grout with half a cup of water. I used duct tape to make it edge. I spread the grout onto the top of the table and I cleaned away any excess grout. I sanded the edges smooth. Using mosaic sealer, I applied a liberal coat.
I found this fun shower curtain. I'm going to start by painting the table. Use a utility knife and run it along the edge. I want to seal the paint to protect it. Put a layer of Mod Podge all over the glass, and now I'm going to lay the shower curtain onto it. Trim off the excess, add one more layer of Mod Podge over the top for added protection.
I've got this old glass table, get it all cleaned up. I'm going to tape around all of the edges. Next, we're going to do that 2-part epoxy. We're going to pour it halfway down the table. Next, we're going to mix a little bit of teal. We're going to pour it out. We're going to go with a darker green, and you're going to start spreading out that white. Start getting rid of all that flaky paint. Start spraying it with some good spray paint. It was time to put on the darkest color we have. Put some more waves on and spread it all out.
I went to Lowe's and picked up this large plastic terracotta looking pot. Give this a light sand. My decor currently is horizontal stripes, so that's why I'm gonna go ahead and do this and use the width of the frog tape and make this easy for myself. So I am gonna do some pink and white stripes on this. I'm just gonna go around and dot the edges of my pot with some silicone dots. Remove the tape, line up my frog tape with my pink line. All right, so now that our white paint is dry, we are going to peel off our tape again. I'm just going to be using this Rust-Oleum matte clear coat.
I took the table apart, separating the glass from the metal ring. Laid the glass on top of the picture. I mixed 2 parts white glue to 1 part black craft paint. I outlined the sun. And once the lines had dried, I cleaned up any lines that were too thick by cutting them away using a utility knife. I painted the background using a 1-inch wide brush. I added designs to each panel. I gave the paint 2 coats of spray sealant. I used a medium grit sanding sponge. I painted the metal bright blue.
Get a styrofoam cooler. I found mine at Walmart. Take a piece of cardboard, trace with a Sharpie, and cut with an X-Acto blade to make it slightly smaller than the lid of the cooler. Take a piece of upholstery foam and trace with a Sharpie and cut with an X-Acto blade. Hot glue the upholstery foam to the top of the lid with the cardboard on top of that. Take a blanket, rug, or textile of your choice and cut it to size to the top of the lid. Fold and hot glue to the lid and trim the excess. Use an old sheet, cut to size, and wrap around the cooler base. Hot glue all the way around the base of the cooler and trim off the excess. Cut the remainder of the blanket, fold over, and hot glue the edges to clean them up. Wrap the blanket pieces around the base with hot glue. Add tassels from the blanket around the top of the base of the cooler to give it a boho look.
Let's head over to Dollar Tree and we're going to grab a paper towel holder. Let's all run down to the hardware store and grab us a wood round. Gotta sand the edges. Got to condition the wood. Let it dry about 30 minutes to an hour. Once it dries, it's time to put on some stain. We're going to get 3 of those paper towel holders and we're going to set them in place. What we need to do is paint them. Once we get it all painted, let it dry. Now we got to curve the edges a little bit and bend them. Don't bend them too far, just get them a little 20 degrees and we're going to do all 3 at the same angle. Now we're going to put them in place on the bottom of our wood round. And I'm going to take these little electric hooks that I got out of the hardware store and I'm going to put 4 all the way around each side of these circles here. And once I got them marked, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill. I'm going to go ahead and put little tiny screws in and hold these clips in place. And I'm going to put a little dab of hot glue. And then I'm going to take some twine. I'm going to set it there and then I'm going to start wrapping it all the way around.
Here's a cool idea to upgrade your garden with these LED lights. First, I cleared out all the overhanging plants and exposed the existing retaining wall. Then I trimmed the overgrown bushes and used a power washer to clean the concrete blocks. After washing, I added another row of blocks filled the gaps with sand, and topped up the garden with new mulch. It already looked amazing and I was ready to install the lighting. I then placed the rope light on the inner side of the edging, starting from the farthest end of the garden bed. I secured the light in place using garden staples about every 12 inches. This light is linkable and customizable to fit any length you need and flexible enough to follow the curves. Most importantly, LED lights are energy efficient. This is a perfect way to light up your walkways and other parts of the garden at night. It enhances safety while adding beautiful accent lighting.
We decided to elevate our driveway entrance. We picked a spot on either side of the driveway and started digging a hole using both a shovel and some post hole diggers. We then added a wooden post to the hole we just dug. I held the wooden post in place in the hole after we got it nice and leveled, and then we slowly started packing in the dirt that we previously removed. You don't want to fill the hole completely with dirt. Leave some room for some quick setting concrete on top. This will definitely secure the wooden post and make sure it stays in place. Then, using a watering can, we poured water on top to set it. We decided to stain them a darker color, and then we attached some ornamental hooks on the front of the post. This elevates our driveway entrance so much and gives us some instant curb appeal. Another little extra piece we decided to add to the pole planters was a solar operated light on top. We drilled that in on the very top of the post, and at night it gives off a flame that appears to be flickering, which is a very nice touch.
I'm going to grab me some solar lights. Next, head over to the hardware store. I'm going to grab me about 100 feet of nylon rope. First thing I got to do is blow up this dollar beach ball. Then I got to get out some Portland cement. Make sure it's not concrete, but cement. You want it actually really thin because we need to coat that rope. Now, on that beach ball, just start laying that rope. You're just going to start roping it all the way around. Once you get to the end, what you're going to do is tuck that last bit in underneath the rope, and it's going to hold it in place. Then what we can do is move on to possibly adding a little bit more cement. Make sure you cover all that rope. We want it to stiffen up as best we can. Let it sit for a couple hours once we get it covered. Once it's covered, take a knife and just puncture the beach ball. Once we get it all the air out, just go ahead and pull it through one of the bigger openings between the ropes. Now, I want to clean it up. Took a little bit of a plastic fork and just clean up the edges. Don't want anything flaking off. Take a squirt bottle and start squirting all the string, and you're just going to powder it with the cement. Just keep doing that all over. What this does is make it thicker and strengthen it up. We're going to grab that dollar light again. Take out the bottom part. You're going to turn it around, put it in, and that's what's going to stick into the ground. Go ahead and put it right into the ground, right in the area you want to put it, and then you're going to take your string orb and you're going to put it right over the light, right in the middle, and lay it on down.
I came across these two disheveled lampshades and I ripped off all the outside parts of the lampshade, the fabric and the trim. I took the two lampshades and I stacked them on top of each other, and then to secure them I used some just little white zip ties, and then I used some scissors and just cut off the excess of the zip tie. Next I took this rub and buff in the shade European Gold, and using just a paint cloth I just rubbed it on. Then I came in with some twine and I tied it around the bottom, and then working the twine up and around, I went around the outside of the lampshade several times, making sure to bring the twine back through so that I didn't have that extra piece of twine in the middle. I went around several times until I got the desired thickness that I wanted for my twine and tied it back off again at the bottom. Then I fanned out the twine, and then I repeated this process intermittently around the lampshade.
I
completely transformed this thrifted lampshade into the most beautiful home decor. I removed the shade so it was just the wire frame. I used a utility knife to scrape off the glue. Then I sanded the wire frame with sandpaper and steel wool. I wiped clean and then spray painted it matte black. While it was drying, I sanded a wood round, wiped it clean, and sealed it with gloss spray Varathane. I applied 5 coats and then sprayed the last coat with satin Varathane. I pre-drilled and screwed the wire frame and wood round together.
First, you need to wet your lampshade thoroughly with some water. We mixed together 2 cups of water, 4 drops of dishwashing soap, and 4 cups of cement. I then painted this mixture on the wet lampshade and let it dry completely. Now it's time to make a cement base for the pot. After letting the cement fully dry and cure, we then used a drill to drill in the drainage hole. I added some potting soil.
Next time you're at the thrift store, pick yourself up a couple of lampshades. To begin my project, I just took apart the lampshade, so I just began with some scissors, cutting apart the fabric and ripping it off. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this little knob back on. Then I'm going to go ahead here with a hot glue gun, just going to attach this faux moss onto the wired parts. I came in with these solar fairy lights and wrapped them all around my lampshade.
You know all those lonely donated lampshades? Pick up a matching pair. Pick up a thrifted belt. Run a bead of clear glue around the perimeter. Take the other lampshade, place it on top of the other lampshade, take some jute twine and tie the inner hardware of the 2 lamps together. Give the connected shades a little shake to make sure they are securely connected. Take the belt and buckle it around the skinny center of the 2 lampshades. Add a little glue to the loose end of the belt and secure it to the rest of the belt. Find a thin wood circle disc. Paint the edge with some acrylic paint. And peel and stick wallpaper is perfect for this project.
You'll never believe what you can make from an old lamp and a glass shade from the thrift store. It's time to paint the lamp now. Is cover it with a coat of water-based clear coat. I want to attach it to the lamp base, so I'm going to use some contact cement to do that. It's time to pop it onto the rest of the lamp base. I want to fill the glass shade now completely with soil. My new planter is ready for some plants. To start this project, I want to remove everything but the main section of this lamp. I'm going to add the glue to each of the joints and then leave it all to dry. I found these signs at the dollar store. I'm going to add a thinner wood round. A little wood glue will hold this into place perfectly. I'm going to find the middle and use the top of the lamp to trace a little circle. I'm ready to paint. I'm going to use the white chalky paint to cover both the base of the lamp and the wood. I want to attach the wood top to the lamp. The circle that I drew before is going to help me so that the lamp is correctly centered. Add some glue and then I can join them together and it'll be nice and solid. I found this lamp not too long ago at the thrift store. Before applying the paint, I'm going to give the base a quick sanding with some gritty sandpaper. I'm going to apply a decoupage medium to the area I want to work with first. Now to start applying the decoupage paper. I want to dampen the paper with a wet paper towel. With everything done and dry, the last thing I want to do is cover up all those little paper bits on the underside of the lamp.
I'm going to rip down all the fabric off of my lampshade. So I'm going to take it outside and give it a quick spray paint. And then after that, I decided I needed to spray paint one more thing. And that was a mason jar sealing part of the lid that I'm going to use later on. I'm going to take this wood slice. I'm going to give this a good coat of sealer. I'm also going to do like the live edges. And once that's all sealed, it's going to be time to grab that mason jar lid and drill a tiny hole in the middle. And now it's time to assemble. I have some E6000 industrial glue that I'm putting in a little hole where like a finial for a lamp would go. And that's where I'm going to kind of adhere that mason jar sealer. I'm going to put some more E6000 glue along the rim here. So I'll go ahead and set that down. Got it in place. And now it's time to drill. It's all good. Going to flip it up.
Grab some hot glue and put a bead of glue along one side of your lampshade and then add some twine or jute. And we're going to wrap that around the lampshade until we cover the entire thing. After you have all your tassels made, we are going to add these to the bottom of our lampshade. And I decided to hot glue these. You could use a needle and thread and tie them and sew them on the edge, but this worked out perfect. You are going to simply trim off the excess tails.
Set an edge of your lampshade against one edge of the wallpaper. Measure in 1/2 inch to 1 inch and mark it by running a pencil where the shade meets the paper. Spray the outside of the lampshade with spray adhesive. Roll the lampshade onto the wallpaper, pressing and smoothing as you go. Apply double-sided tape to the inside lip of the top and bottom of the lampshade. Wrap the overage border of the wallpaper over the edge of the shade and press onto the double-stick tape. Take some more tape and apply it to the top and bottom of the lampshade. Take some ribbon in a coordinating color and press half of the width onto the double stick tape and secure on the inside of the shade. Do this for the top and bottom of the shade. Continue the lamp makeover by spray painting the base of your lamp.
Picked up this thrifted lampshade that I got at my local thrift store, these embellishments that I found at my local fabric store. I began placing my lace appliques over the lampshade. I'm next going to bring in some spray adhesive and I'm just going to spray the back of the lace applique and then I'm going to lay it in place on my lampshade. Once my pieces were fully placed on, I came in with this So Soft fabric paint, just went very lightly over some of the edge detailing.
So to get started, I am going to take apart the lamp and I'm just going to put some alcohol on the paper towel and wipe down my lamp base. I'm just giving a little light base coat to this. And then I have some all-in-one pre-mix stucco patch. And I'm just using an old chip brush and I'm just going to coat the entire thing. While that's drying, I'm going to take that really kind of dingy old looking lampshade. I'm using some white chalk paint. That's water that you saw me mist on there. And it just makes the paint kind of flow and cover nicely. I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm actually going to do a second coat. I have a medium gray paint here and I've also added a little water to it. I'm just going to take a regular paintbrush. So I'm just going to work on getting this whole lamp base covered in this. While that gray is still wet, I'm grabbing some mud by Dixie Belle. I put a glove on to put this part on. It's a lot like spackle. Let that dry for about an hour and then grab a sanding block and get that all sanded smooth down. And then for even more dimension, I have white chalk paint and then a lighter gray little sea sponge here that I'm just getting kind of damp. And I've also misted my paint plate. Now I'm just going to kind of dab around and keep working on this faux finish. And then after I do all that, now I have black and brown paint. Okay, so I'm watering down that paint a little bit and a push pin. I'm using the tip, the little pin, to add some little dot. Lastly, just to seal in all this, I used a matte clear spray.
Head over to your local Walmart and grab a few sprigs of greenery. I place the pool noodle next to the top of the planter and mark the lines. Then I cut the pool noodle with a knife to the mark. After that, I place the pool noodle pieces along with some empty water bottles inside the planter to keep everything in the center and weighted down. Then I placed the sprigs of faux greenery inside the holes of the pool noodles and fluffed it all out.
Grab some pots, plants, and rebar from your local home improvement store. Start by placing a generous layer of rocks or gravel, then fill your pots with your selected plants. Once your plants are potted, begin stacking your pots. Insert the rebar into the bottom pot, making sure it comes through the drainage hole at the bottom and rests on the saucer.
I've got an area on the side of my house that is just ugly with an old hose. Take some handles and also the base for a planter, and I'm going to put these handles on the side. Go ahead and put both sides on and make sure you get them nice and tight, but we're going to flip it over because we need to drill some drain holes. Once we got these holes drilled, turn it back over and we're going to use some succulent potting soil. And then you can begin to go ahead and transplant your succulents over to this base. On the planter though, we need to drill a hole about halfway up, and that's how we're going to put the hose in. So we also want to put some drain holes in the bottom of this planter. Now the last thing we got to do is put some wood in there. That's going to hold this lid up. Once you got it, make sure you do 2 on each side. Make sure you also get that garden hose through.
You're going to need 6 plain wood crates. I am going to use spray paint in 3 different colors. Once the paint is dry, I'm going to seal these crates. So I grabbed some 2x2 pieces of wood and I'm going to cut them down to size. Then you're going to sand down the edges and stain this. Now that the stain and paint is dry, it's time to lay this out and dry fit everything. Then using a drill, just add pilot holes and then 2-inch screws to hold everything together. Once everything is assembled, it's time to put it in place.
Ran down to Home Depot and picked up some beautiful flowers as well as 2 of these different hanging baskets. I removed the chain from both of the baskets and ended up removing the insert from one of the baskets. I opened everything up, placed my flowers inside, closed it again with the top frame on the top, lined up the holes, and added zip ties to hold everything together securely. My next step was to add the lights. These are solar powered lights, so they'll work great when I use them outside. Once it was all wrapped and ready, I was able to just let it sit in the sun for a few hours so that it could charge up. I grabbed 1 basket and 10 of these wooden pieces. I set to work staining them using these easy staining cloths. Once they were dry, I set up 2 of the wooden pieces vertically, and then I added the rest of my wooden pieces horizontally. Used some 1-inch nails and put those in place. I had purchased these 4-inch house numbers. I nailed these into place. The next thing I did to finish it up was to add some pretty flowers.
First step I'm going to do is start clearing out some of these big flat rocks. I got to get the base ready. Next step is to take a small 2x4 and screed the area. That helps level the soil. I want to make sure it is nice and level. Now it's time for the first block. Put that down, shake it a little bit so that it feels nice and firm. We're going to actually keep doing this up and down as we go. Once you get that base done, put that 2x4 across and make sure it's level. Now it's time for some construction adhesive. We don't want to put too much on. We just need to make sure those bricks don't slide and break and fall whenever we put them together. And then I cut a nice big piece of redwood board that fits on top. I grab these from the hardware store and I go ahead and separate the roots a little bit and put some nice potting soil in. These pots will slide right down in and take the form of the cavity that we're putting them in.
I scooped up this metal filing cabinet from Facebook Marketplace. I took it out of my van and I put it up on some raised ladders and I removed all the drawers. Then I'm going to come in with this rust paint and I'm going to paint the entire filing cabinet. Then I'm going to use my drill and I'm going to drill in some holes in the bottom. To weight it down, I'm going to be putting in 2 bags of pea stone gravel. Then I'm going to go to my yard and I collected all these old leaves. This is great because I'm going to fill up the bulk of the cabinet with the leaves. So I fill it up till there's about a quarter left at the top, and then I fill that last quarter with my potting mix. Then I'm going to go ahead and plant in my flowers.
Grab tin cans and a napkin for this brilliant porch decor. I washed 3 tin cans from the recycling, removed the labels, and scuffed up the surface with a wire brush. I wiped clean with a cloth and spray painted the outside of each can with Rust-Oleum paint and primer white spray paint. While that was drying, I spray painted some metal chain black. I set that aside to dry. I used a small drill bit to drill 3 holes evenly spaced along the top edge of the tin can. I drilled holes in the same spots at the bottom edge and the same spots again at the very bottom of the tin can. Then I cut the napkins into smaller pieces and cut around the birds. I painted outdoor Mod Podge on the tin can, placed the napkin pieces on, and sealed it with more Mod Podge. I did this for all 3 tin cans, then used a nail to poke through the holes I drilled to make sure the glue didn't close them over. I let the cans dry. 24 hours is ideal.
Look for flowers in a multi-pack that can be split apart. Take your laundry basket and drill several holes in the bottom with a drill. Line the laundry basket with a burlap bag or burlap fabric. Start to fill the burlap-lined laundry basket with potting soil. Fill to about 1 inch from the top of the basket. Cut the excess burlap from the top of the basket with some scissors. Starting with the second row of side basket holes, cut the plastic between 2 holes to create 1 larger hole. Then cut out the burlap from that larger hole to access the dirt. Take one of your plants and plant it in the hole by pushing it into the dirt behind it. It helps to use your other hand to grab the plant as it comes through the hole and press dirt down around it on the inside of the basket. Once you have the sides of your basket planted, you can plant the top.
Time to run down to your local baker and grab a big old container of cookies. But even though those cookies are yummy, what we want is that decorative lid. We're going to measure it straight across and get about 10 inches. Lay out some cardboard and we're going to pick a bowl that's round for us to mark. Just go ahead and lay it on the cardboard and take a marking pen and get you that perfect circle. Now it's time to mix up our cement. Once we get it mixed, Carefully lay it inside the bucket. You can see the consistency here is like some really good pudding. Now, once you get the right amount in, you're going to go ahead and just shake it all up. Cut some strips of wood. This one is going to be full 10 inches across, and the other ones are going to be 4 each. And then glue up the ends, lay it out, and fold it in. We want to make sure that all the pieces of the wood fit inside the circle. Take some popsicle sticks and some hot glue. You're going to lay this across the top. This is going to be our clamp that is going to hold the pieces together while that wood glue dries. Flip it over. We're going to do the other side also. Once you get these pieces on, it's so strong, it's time to go ahead and drill them because we want to put these caster legs on there. All we need to do is take some hot glue, put it in, and all 4 wheels go right in there. Now it's time to take those wood and the wheels, and we're going to just shake it back and forth. Let it sink right into the concrete. Let it dry for about 24 hours. Go ahead and turn it back over after that 24 hours is up. We're going to use a knife and we're going to start cutting away the plastic. We need to get some air in there. That's what's going to release our mold from the concrete. Look at that smooth, beautiful concrete.
So to begin my project, I just removed the glass top part of the portion and just set that aside for later. And then I gave the base a really good wash down and scrub just to clean up any dirt or debris that was on it. I headed to my local dollar store and I picked up a cheap shower curtain in a pattern that I like. And then I took the glass top portion and gave it a good wipe down and cleaned off any dust or debris. Then with my shower curtain, I just laid it out to decide which part of the pattern I wanted to use. And then I came in with some matte Mod Podge and I did a nice even layer all over the glass. Once I did that, I took my shower curtain and I laid it over, and then using my hands, I just smoothed it out, working from the middle to the outside, just to make sure that there was no air bubbles, and then I smoothed out all the Mod Podge underneath. I also used a scraper, a plastic scraper, to come in and smooth out any air bubbles and just to make sure that the shower curtain was pressed firmly onto the glass. And the best part of this project is I didn't use very much, so I can save the rest of the shower curtain maybe for a future project. And then I flipped it over onto the shower curtain just while it was drying, just to give it some pressure. Once it was fully dry, I came in with this X-Acto knife and just cut off the excess overhang to make it nice and smooth on the edges. Then once it was dry, I flipped it back over, and then I came in with my Mod Podge again just to give it another coat over top, just to give it kind of a sealer and seal it in. Once this was dry, my table is complete, and I just replaced the glass back into the base, and here is the finished project. I am so happy with how this table turned out, and it just gave it a nice modern upgrade and a new look and a fresh new table for my patio.
For today's project, I'm going to head down to my local Walmart and grab my favorite shower curtain. I need a cool design. Then I'm also going to head on over to the Dollar Tree and grab some of these mats that they have. I'm going to need 4 of these for this project. I'm going to place them upside down, put them in a square so they're all together. Make sure the seams fit up nice and neat. Once I get those together, the next step was I grabbed some duct tape and I put that down to hold those seams together. Now, if I needed to add a few more, I could have, but I wanted to make sure I got it from front to back and from side to side. That'll make it nice and strong right there. Once I get that cut off and everything, I want to make sure that I also smooth it out so I got a smooth surface. Next, I'm going to take that shower curtain and lay it across my table, but I want to make sure that I had the design facing up. That way I know exactly where to lay it out. Once I do that, I'm going to take it out and go ahead and cut around the edges. I want to leave about 3 to 4 inches of overlap on each side. These shower curtains cut real easy. Just take a pair of nice sharp scissors and do it. Next is going to take some spray adhesive, and I'm going to spray this all along the back of these mats, even getting on the duct tape that I did. Want to make sure I get the edges and all around the inside and every square inch that I can. Want to work a little fast, make sure I get it on there, and then I'm going to lay the shower curtain. But I'm not going to lay the whole thing at one time. Just do half of it and then smooth it out and get the wrinkles out. Then I'm going to push over the other half using my hand, just get out all the wrinkles that I can. Now there's some that are still there, and that's because it was folded up in the package. What I'm going to do is take an iron and place it on there and get all the wrinkles out. Now I'm going to flip it back over, grab my hot glue gun, and go Very easy, just a few inches at a time, and lay over the edges of the shower curtain onto the back of the mat. Now it's a little warm, so you want to be careful, just light touches so you don't burn yourself. Once I get that all laid out, I'm going to make sure it's nice and smooth. Get all the edges on all four sides done, and then I'm going to start folding the corners. So I fold one side first like this, put out a little hot glue, and then I'm going to fold the next edge over. I'm going to hold that down for about 15 to 20 seconds until it dries up and it holds it. Now here's a little secret. I'm going to put some hot glue on the back of this mat and just lay it there. What this does is this grips as I'm doing it. Next, what's going to happen is I'm going to get some water-based polyurethane and I'm going to spray this mat. That's going to help waterproof it. Once I get this on and it's ready to dry, I can put this in place. And it goes great in my bathroom. It actually, with this beach scene, it matches the decor that I already have hanging up in my bathroom. Is that I can also take it outside because it's going to go great with my Adirondack chairs. I think it turned out great and it looks really amazing.
We're going to make a really cute outdoor decoration using hangers and a shower curtain from Dollar Tree. The first thing I'm doing is just spreading out the shower curtain on a big table, and I want the colorful side to be facing up. Now I'm going to grab my hangers. I'm only using 4, and I'm going to lay these out in a pattern that resembles a butterfly. Once I'm happy with the shape, I'm going to use a little hot glue to put these together. I want this to be nice and sturdy, so I want to make sure that the center of my butterfly, where those hangers touch, that those kind of overlap. And I'm going to use a lot of hot glue to really make this stick. Now this is a pretty big shower curtain, so to make this a little bit more manageable, I'm just going to hold the butterfly in place and cut around the shower curtain roughly the size of the butterfly. But I'm going to flip the whole thing over. And now I want to work on securing the shower curtain to the hangers. I'll flip it back over. The shower curtain is now attached, and I'm just going to go through, do some detail work with my scissors, and I have a set of battery-powered fairy lights. I'm going to glue the battery pack to the center, and then I'm just going to use a bit of hot glue to tack the lights in place. For the center of the butterfly, I want something weatherproof, so I just grabbed a scrap of wood and cut it down to size, and I'm going to paint it with black craft paint. This is going to act as the body of the butterfly, but it's also going to add some stability to the whole piece and give me a place to hang it. When everything is completely dry, which I did let sit for 12 hours, and now I have this colorful butterfly on my deck. It looks so good out here. And at night, I can turn on the lights and light it up.
I found this fun shower curtain at the dollar store, and I thought it would be perfect for a makeover project I want to do. This small patio table is in desperate need of a makeover. It's starting to look a little old and tired, and I've been wanting to refresh it. I'm going to start by painting the table. I'm using a paint that I know will stick to the metal and giving it a nice generous coat to make sure I cover all of the old beige. Removing that excess paint on the glass is super easy now that it's all dry. I'm just going to use a utility knife and run it along the edge, and it will just lift off any of that paint that got on the glass. This is way easier and quicker than taping off the glass. Since my table will be outside in the elements, I want to seal the paint to protect it. With everything done and ready to go, it's time to add the shower curtain. I really like the large green and blue design, so I want to line that up so that it's in the center of the glass. I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of Mod Podge all over the glass, and now I'm going to lay the shower curtain onto it. I want to trim off the excess before the Mod Podge dries, so I'm going to run this utility knife around the edges to trim it off. The final thing I need to do before my table is finished is to add one more layer of Mod Podge over the top for added protection. This little table is so cute now, and I'm loving the blue and green. It's perfect for sunny days on the balcony. I hope this has inspired you to give your table a new look as well. Thank you so much for watching Home Talk. I'll see you next time.